Hey everyone, John and Ray here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the Market Mindset, where we take a look at the market psychology today so we can better understand tomorrow. And today we had a very interesting day on the Dow, and as you can see, after President-elect Trump has hit the microphone, we've had a little bit of a change in sentiment here. But the overall movement that we had from yesterday was very exhaustive. The sellers were trying to push the market down aggressively after that run higher, but as we saw and as we talked about in the nightly newsletter, going over the outlook for the next day, i.e. today, they failed to get down to a new low. And that's a big clue, because that tells us that the buyers are very likely going to be coming in and driving the market up. They took a lot of heat, and if it goes back to the high, they're probably going to exit a little bit early at the top. But that being said, the fact that it couldn't break the low shows a fairly decent bullish move on the way up. Now, we open up today with a small gap higher, but still inside of yesterday's kind of end-of-day range that we formed here, and we start seeing a little bit of a breakout. Now, the first candle of the day, not really proving a whole lot. The second candle of the day, also not proving a ton, but it is showing that the bears are still weak. The buyers don't look that great either, but the bears are equally as weak. And then we followed up with the third candle of the day, breaking out above the high of bar 1, showing that the buyers want to try to kick this off. Now, that will be seen as a breakout attempt, and given the context, it doesn't necessarily look that bad, although it is a little aggressive because it's fairly early to the party. You know my motto when it comes to going early to the party. But after we get that run higher, for the traders that maybe didn't want to take it there, we start getting confirmation, right? More buying pressure and more buying pressure and more buying pressure, to the point where the buyers are now amped up to buy anything, right? They're going to buy anything that they can get their hands on. A pullback, a bullish close, a bearish close, doesn't matter. They're looking to buy into this because of that massive amount of aggression. Closing at its highs, closing at its highs, closing at its highs, closing at its highs. Very strong bullish run. So when we start seeing this little bit of a pullback, that allows buyers to start jumping in and picking up this low, assuming that this move could easily be, just like we saw yesterday, a deep pullback, but as long as it doesn't break that low, the buyers have a very good chance at returning back to the highs and maybe even a little bit further, depending on how steep of a pullback it was. In this case, the pullback it didn't even go 50% of the way before finding another huge bullish turn right back up, closing on its highs, resuming that strength to the upside, and the buyers ate that up like candy. So not only are you buying on the pullback, buying more on the pullback, but if you waited and wanted to see maybe just a good bull candle to jump in on, that was your one right there, and it allowed it right after that bearish weakness to slam up to the highs and finish off the major objectives at the top that we were talking about in our room today. Now, once we started hitting at that highs, that's when we start moving into 11 o'clock. That's when President-elect Trump starts speaking. This is 11 o'clock right here. Didn't really do a whole lot, and then things started going a little bit crazy. We poked the market's head above the highs here and then immediately slammed lower. Now, that is a complete breakdown of everything that's happened earlier in the day. Generally speaking, when you're looking at this kind of movement, you want to see nice, consistent flow, right? You don't want to see big, abrupt moves, just nice, flowing movement. And then all of a sudden, wham, right? Out of nowhere, this massive bearish candle shows up, and every seller on the planet is going to be jumping in on this. And that includes the buyers who will have been long from down here buying this pullback. They're going to turn into sellers because they're not going to hold through a move like that. Basically, what that tells you, there are no more buyers in the market. All of the buyers liquidated their position as soon as this bear candle showed up with a failure at the highs. And that paves the way for the sellers to just slam dunk this thing all the way back down to the lows. And it sure did. Massive bearish candle, followed through, and now we start seeing on that gap fill, right? On the gap fill, all of the sellers who jumped in up here are starting to take profit. We're going a little bit sideways now. So a very whippy back and forth day, but as long as you were paying attention to the psychology of the market and understood what was going on, you did just fine. So hopefully you found this useful. Hopefully you found it interesting at the very least, and maybe you learned something from it. If you have any questions, as always, you can send me an email, jbrink@slingshotfutures.com. Make sure to sign up for our one-day trial to see what we're all about. But until tomorrow, we will catch you all later.